Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Grace of a Military Child in Life podcast. Military families are not like your traditional family. They are strong, brave, resilient, and some of the most incredible people I know. My name is Gracie, a U.S. Army brat, and I am your host. I am honored to be able to give military family members like myself a place for them to share their stories and experiences in the military life. Stay tuned for this week's guest. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Grace of a Military Child in Life. Today, I'm here with Amber, who is an Army spouse. So, Amber, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. And thank you for being a part of this. I'm super excited. So kind of start by telling us what it's like being a military spouse.
I wish I had the words. I was just kind of thinking about this, like, how do I explain? But I feel like at the beginning, it was kind of nerve-wracking because I've known my husband since high school. And I mean, we were dating when he was in college, and then it was, I'm joining the military. So it was kind of not what I was planning. Some people maybe plan that, but I guess a lot of people I've met, they don't really plan to be a military spouse.
It's just a surprise.
It was kind of, yeah. It was like, what? Like, well, you're going to join the Army? Okay. I mean, why did you go to college? What happened?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's at the beginning, it was a little nerve wracking. The first place, the gas station, was on the other side of the country from my family and his family. So, I mean, that was hard. It was hard. But I think as the years have gone on, like, he's been almost 12 years now. You adapt and you grow and as a person, and like how being a military spouse, and it's gotten a little bit easier over the years. But of course, with every duty station, you're learning, a lot of different things. So it's been up and down. I'll say it's been up and down for sure.
Yeah. And most of the time you never expect it to happen. You just end up kind of falling into it. And it's like you're thrown into a whole new world, especially if you've had no military connection prior or, no close friends who are in the military or who are spouses. Like, you really get thrown into this whole new world of, and it's literally, people describe it as a culture shock. And I think that's, really exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm. It really is. 100%. Like, I had uncles in the military, but like no one really close to me. So I had no idea what to expect. So I think I had one friend when I was working at a restaurant who was a military spouse. And when I told her, hey, like, can you give me any advice or anything? And I'll never forget this because it was a little intimidating at first. She was just like, oh, like, don't get involved with the politics. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what does that mean? I don't understand. So that stuck with me. But then as I did get involved with like other spouses, I was like, okay, it's not all bad. Like, there are some normal spouses out there. It's not all cattiness and craziness. Like, there are some very supportive women, and it's good to have those bonds with some of those women, especially in this journey. Because also, like, you never know where you're going to end up and who you may know from those connections. You're like, hey, at least I know one person that's there,
Right. And I think sometimes the military community, I'll say as a whole, can get a bad reputation of, okay, it's these like, it's this cliquey culture. It's, the spouse drama pages, we kind of get that reputation. But once you really get into it, and yes, you'll still come across, things like that. But for the most part, it is this community of supportive people who are just there to, help you get through it, because that's all they're trying to do themselves too.
Yes, that is so true. That is true. But yeah, where are you guys stationed at?
So I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. And so I lived there for, 9 years. My dad was in the reserve, and so the Army Reserve. And so he was out of Twinsburg, Ohio. It was 40 minutes from us. And then he was injured, and we moved to San Antonio to Fort Sam and loved life there. And then due to his
Yeah.
injuries, he had to retire. And so we moved to Cape Coral, Florida, and we've been there for a little while, or been here for a little while. It's been about a decade. And then I have since decided to join the military. So I'll be heading to Fort Jackson and starting my career with basic training there.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Like, I kind of knew somewhat of, from what I've seen in social media, but like, I had no idea you were joining. That's exciting in itself.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, what made you join or wanted to join?
Yeah. I think there's so many aspects to it that, as a child I grew up with, and as an adult, I've missed. And so I think that was a huge part of it. And, that community, like we were just talking about, was a big thing. But then I also, kind of similar to what you were saying about your husband, I graduated college, went on and got a master's, graduated with that. And it's so hard to get a job right now, in the job market, especially I was looking in the marketing field. Everyone looked at me and said, you're overexperienced or overeducated and underexperienced. And so it's like, okay, well, where do I go? And the military had always been in the back of my head. I wanted to go to West Point at one point, with the withdrawal of Afghanistan, I wanted to go. And then my ex was in the Marines. And so I was like, okay, well, I loved that year I spent with him, and I wanted that back. And so I wanted to join myself after that. And then I went, okay, well, I can't get a job. I need health insurance. I need, paychecks. I need all of this stuff to live. So why not, actually go for this? And my dad looked at me and went, okay, you can do this, but you're going to do it as an officer. So we went through the whole process, and going to be an Army officer. So about fall next year, I'll be done with everything, and who knows where I'll be after that.
Well, congratulations on that. And you will definitely be in my thoughts, because I know that is a non-taking. So that's awesome, though. I feel like I always have this respect, especially for like women that are in the military or, first responders. I'm just like, man, you are just so cool. Like that on-taking is so cool, I respect it.
Yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate that. I think I've had the same thing too. We grew up in this world where it was always the guy is serving, and, you had to be tough to do it. And, all of these like stereotypes of how military life goes. But I think now we're starting to see that shift of women coming in to the military, to law enforcement, like everywhere. And I think it's just the coolest thing. And it's, especially cool. Like, I can't wait to meet all the little girls who, say they want to join the military, and then they actually see me along with so many other women in the military and, doing what we want to do.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. It is really cool.
Yeah. And, that's the best part of it. Like we were saying earlier, the community of everything in the military is just, you can't get that anywhere else. And so I think that no matter what you're going through, the community is the biggest motivator of anything. Like, it's a hard life, no matter whether you're the service member, the spouse, the child, extended family. Like, it's a hard life to live. And you've just got the support of millions of people who you don't even really know. And that's just the best part of it.
Yes, definitely. I think that is one thing that at the beginning, I wish I would have like immersed myself more in, because I was super like lonely and alone, especially being, like I said earlier, across the country from family and just barely starting out this whole military spouse thing. Is I didn't know how to plug in. I was like scared, like I didn't want to be involved with drama or anything like that, because you hear these things, right? Like you said earlier too, it's like you hear this stuff and it kind of gives, you're like, oh, I don't want to, that's ick. I don't want to be near it. But like, it just having that community is so important, and not feeling alone, and just having your girlfriends that you can hang out with or need something. Like I was pregnant, because I have 6 kids. So I've been pregnant quite a few times in the military, as a military spouse. And like, it is so important to have those people that like, oh my gosh, I'm going into labor. Like, I need someone to come to my house right now. Or like, my husband's gone and I think I'm going into labor. Like, are you available to help me out? So it's so important, like, to have those connections, that people you can trust and that understand, hey, I will be your emergency contact,
Yes. And you don't necessarily, you hear the stories again, like you hear so much on the outside of it, but then you don't understand it until you get into it. And the emergency contact is one of them. Like, who do you call in an emergency when you don't have family nearby, when you don't have, really close friends because you just moved there? Like, who do you call? You call that like first person you met. And, even like you said, going into labor, like who else, and your husband's working, like, not that he can just drop everything and come. Like, these are the things that happen in military life.
Yep. One of them, I think my husband was, I don't remember. He was in some kind of training, right? And I had to call his chain of command. I'm like, I think I'm going into labor. I can't get a hold of my husband. Can you pass us along this information? Like, he needs to get here. But of course, he's not close by. So it was like a couple hours. Luckily, nothing crazy was happening yet, but it's so needed. And I think for this particular pregnancy, I knew no one. So I was like alone, and it was like devastating. So it is so important, just you got to kind of brush off what some people say and just create your own experiences, because you just don't know. There are some really cool and good people out there, and it's not all, what it seems to be from, I guess you can say, negative Nancy's,
Right. Yeah. I hear so many people too who come in and they're like, I'm such an introvert. Like, I hate going out there and talking to new people and meeting new people. Like, I just want to be in my little bubble. But that's like really the most important part, is like, once you get to a new duty station, no matter how long you've been in this for, whether it's you're going on your second year, your first year, whether you're going on like 20, you really have to kind of push all the negative thoughts out and really put yourself out there. Because like you said, you have to create it, because it's not going to just be handed to you. It's not going to come to you. You have to go to it. And whether it's, walking around the commissary and the PX a little longer and, making small talk with someone, or going to all the events on base, like, that's huge.
Yeah. It, like, even now, I'll say, like, where we're at right now is Fort Irwin. It's a small post out in the middle of the California desert, which people call it the armpit of California. So it kind of has a bad rap, right? There's nothing to do here. But what does make it here is they're like the community and the people. And surprisingly, like, since I homeschooled, there are so many homeschool events, and there are so many like sub clubs from the Spouses Club, like crafting events, and like, they have Women's Bible Study, PWC. So like, there's all kinds of things here to do, but like, it's the community. If it weren't for the community, even like community small businesses, this place would be horrible. It would be absolutely horrible, because the closest city is like 45 minutes away. And like, the closest Target is like an hour and 20 minutes away. So it really does matter.
Yeah. And sometimes, you get thrown into the middle of nowhere. Like, we got very fortunate with our, really one duty station that we had being San Antonio. Like, there's so much to do there. There's so much to see, so many people to meet. And because we were in Texas, like, there's just something about the people in the South. Everyone says Southern hospitality, and the people in the South are so much nicer. And it's like, yes, like, they really are. So, we were very fortunate for that. And, San Antonio's Military City, USA. So it's definitely, you definitely feel that. But when you go to some places like Fort Irwin, or like 29 Palms, or, Alaska, when you're not surrounded by, a Target, and you lose everything that you're used to, you really have to adapt to it, but then also rely on the people who are there.
Yeah, that is so accurate. I think at the beginning it was, it's, people always say like, you're where you're supposed to be for a reason, right? Like, there's a reason you're there. And at the beginning I was like, I don't see a reason why I'm here. I don't understand. Like, this place stinks. Like, you're kind of just like, there's no open coffee past 5. And I know that's not a big deal for some people, but like, for some people, like the little things matter, right? And for me, since I'm such a busy person, I need caffeine. It's like not having Starbucks after 5 p.m. is like, what in the world? Like, what's going on? But, it's, you do build that community and you do make those relationships, and it's been better. It's definitely been better. And I wouldn't say I'm an introvert. Like, I love meeting new people. I love talking to people. But at the beginning, I am very observant. Like, I won't just like be the social butterfly and around people. Like, it takes me a second to like, okay, like I can vibe with this person. Like, I can start a conversation with her, but at first it's like, yeah, you got to kind of push yourself a little bit, because then, yeah, it wouldn't be good. It definitely wouldn't be good here.
Yeah, I honestly think that's definitely how I am too. Like, I like to go somewhere, see what everything's about, take some time to observe it, think about it, and then, make my decisions based off of that. But like, it's so important to find that social butterfly in you, because I think everyone has it. Some people it comes out a little quicker and some people it doesn't. So like, whichever end of the spectrum you are, I think it's so important to like really find that within you, to just say hello to someone. And like, you never know, that could be your best friend, and that could be the person who helps you get through, the sucky duty station, or, or like you said earlier, you could end up back at a duty station with that person, or have a mutual connection.
Yes. Yeah. And I was going to say, one of the girls that I like clicked with immediately, it was funny because I went to an event, and I was kind of like, it was bring your kids, so of course I was distracted, kind of looking over my little ones as they're running around, making sure they're safe. But yeah, it's funny because she went up to me and she was like, hey, like, my name's Ashley. And she was super like bubbly and sweet. And she was like, I love introverts because I love to bring the extrovert out of them. And I thought that was funny. I was like, well, I never considered myself an introvert, but maybe sometimes I kind of am. Like, it takes me a hot minute to like figure out how to conversate with someone, but she like brought that out of me, and she was just like, and even now she moved, she's on the East Coast now, but like even now I still talk to her and ask how she's doing, and we still stay connected, because you meet that person. It just takes one person, and it makes life good, because we were both kind of new here, but like we connected, and it's so good. Like, you don't have to have a bunch of friends, but like just at least having that one connection totally changes your perspective in an isolated location that you may be at,
Yeah. And that first connection when you get somewhere, it really helps to determine how it's going to be when you're there. And if you have someone who you instantly click with, it's going to be so much easier to go through all of this. And then you'll have a buddy to, take the hour and 20-minute trip to Target with. And, those are the things you need and the people you want in your life. And then those people, you follow them. Maybe not physically, but, social media is a thing now. Like, we have that connection with people. We can call and talk to people and FaceTime and text and all of that. And it's fun. One thing that I can't wait for is like my kids growing up in the lifestyle around other kids, and, seeing that connection that they make and then that they take with them. And who knows, like, I think it helps form kids so much, because, it gives them that resiliency, that adaptability, all of that. But then it also, I think it helps to form their personalities, and they just become these, so culturally well-rounded people that are just, the greatest. And, I see that as a military child myself, but like, I see all of this and, all of my friends, and I think it's just the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, I was going to say, I did see that, obviously, because that's your Grace of a military child. And like, I knew that was your background a little bit, but it's my kids, like, as they get older, because I have 2 teens right now. And of course, as I get older and you move, it's harder, right? With the friendships that you gain at that last place. And then you have to cut that out, and, you're moving again, and you have to make new friends again. And the older they get, I have seen how much harder it is. And they're just like, this, this stinks right now. They're not seeing it, but I'm like, hey, listen, I know it sucks right now, but from what I'm seeing from other people that have lived the life you have, like, they are way more social. They are way more like all the qualities that you said, like, that's going to help you in the long run. Like when you join, or when you get a new job and you're meeting new people, like, it's going to be easier for you to start, socializing, talking to people. You're not going to be so scared or timid because, like, you're growing those qualities and personality traits, characteristics that you're taking for a lifetime. And I've seen it on my daughter. Like, she was a little bit more shy, but as she's, over the years, as her personality is more, whatever it may be, but like, she is definitely more social. And I have to credit that to being a military child, because she had to meet new friends and, like, put herself out there, even though she's kind of more introvert, but like, she knows how to, like, how to work through that. And so it's been really cool to see. So I know it's tough for them as a mom, seeing them, having to say bye to friends. And luckily they do, still text some other friends that they've moved away from or whatever and keep in touch. But, as much as it's painful to see your kids go through that, like, you do see how it's beneficial to them too at the same time. So that is really cool.
Yeah. And I think, you were saying that it helps, later on in life too. And I think in college, I noticed it a lot because, everyone's in a new setting. Everyone is trying to figure out what adulthood is like, I lived at home with my parents still. And I was, fall 2020. So a lot of us still kind of lived at home and just commuted to campus. But you could tell the difference. And I always say I can pick out anyone military related, just walking on the street, because you hold yourself different, you act different, you are more social. And, a lot of the kids just kind of took a, step back and were kind of more introverted at those points because college is scary. Your first step as an adult is scary. And, there were a couple military kids and I'm like, I can tell you, because the way you are, taking the situation and dealing with it, because you can adapt to it. You are just going in, diving right in, rather than just dipping your toes in. And I think that's just, that goes to show the way that, you could technically say the military raises these kids in the situations they get handed, from such a young age, and the way they, take it and then hopefully make the best of it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
So true.
And I wanted to give you a spot to highlight your business that you run and kind of what you're doing with that.
So my business is called Bud Fan Co. It's short for Budzynski, but that's a really long name, so we just said Bud. But which is funny. You have to say this because I've had people, because we do a lot of vendor events, like local vendor events, and sometimes people are so funny because they'll be like, "Oh, or do you make stuff out of hemp, or is something like?" And I'm like, no, it's Bud, short for Budzynski. But the California people ask that, I'm just like, wow, okay, that's interesting. Anyways, so it's really because we've had a lot of little businesses. Like my kids, they did wire wrapped rock necklaces at one point. And then I did cool. That stuff. So we just kind of put it all together and we're just like, okay, well, whatever we like to make, we're just going to put it under Bud Fam Co. because whatever the kids, we're going to support whatever they want to do and create. So, and then it kind of morphed, I don't like my kids make whatever they want and then I make whatever I want. But, it's more as they've gotten older, I'll say my older ones are more, they like to help with packaging, or they'll like go to a vendor event with me. And of course it's their way of earning their own income too. So, I'm a huge, believer for a mom as like, you don't get everything you want right away. You got to work for it. You got to make your money and then you can buy whatever that thing is that you're wanting to save up for. So they help in that aspect. And then my husband, of course, helps with like the heavy lifting and the business side of it, numbers, all that. He went to college for business and advertising, kind of like you. And then public relations, just he got all these different things under his belt. So it's been really helpful for me. I'll ask him business advice. They're like, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And he puts his input in that. And they also help with like filming. So sometimes if it's a little wonky, it's because, one of my kids are filming. They like to help with that, wobbling, but it's all good, So yeah, I do a lot of, right now we're known for hair bows, but I do a lot of different hair accessories and other handmade goods. And it's been awesome because once again, it's like, it goes back to like, like a little hesitant at first, but my husband was like, you should start selling this. And maybe more so he said that because I was spending a lot of money on crafting supplies. So it was kind of like, if you're maybe hopefully this will help with some of that crafting supply money. I don't know. So I just took the leap of faith, and we've been doing it for 4 years now. So it's been awesome. And to see it grow too. And like, we were doing a lot of different things, but we kind of, stuck mainly to the accessories part. And it's been great because with a small business, you're able to, especially as a military spouse, you're able to take that everywhere with you. Right. So that's been great. I have my little side income, and that helps with like all the kids' activities and family trips and things like that. And just being able to contribute, that my husband, yes, he's the main provider, but like I'm also able to do my part. I guess for me, like it makes me feel, I don't know, accomplished, I love being a mom, but I also love that I'm able to also help out my family financially.
Yeah, no, I think that's so fun. And I kind of love the backstory of it. It's not just you, like the kids help, and it's a whole family thing. And yes. I think you definitely see that a lot in military families because, I mean, what more is there to do as a spouse? Like, it's hard to have a job, to take with you. It's not like the military. There's no other job like the military where you can pack literally everything up and move for your job like that. And so it's hard to have that, dual income family unless you are dual military. And, it's hard to do that when you have kids and, you're growing your family. So that's why we see so many small businesses. And I just love that about the military community. And we all, like to support that and buy from other small businesses and, military family run small businesses. And I think that is just, incredible what you're doing and getting the kids involved. And, I think it's just so fun.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's definitely one of those things where you see it a lot. It's hard for military spouses. One of the volunteer things I do is I help grade scholarship essays, and countless essays are about their careers and how moving from state to state, or if they're in school, having to stop their school and then move again and then restart their school, or life happens and then they have to restart it again. So having something like a small business, while it may not be for everyone, I would definitely encourage anyone who's thinking about it, like, oh, should I do this? Or, like just take that leap of faith, because it's something that you can take with you. And it really helps you make other relationships outside of post too, because doing vendor events and things like that, like you just build another community with like other business owners, right? And that support with that. And that has been really awesome, like meeting all these different people in the community through my small business. So that's one aspect too that I love about it.
Yeah. And I think too, going through military life, one thing that we always say is, what's the worst that can happen? So like, what's the worst that can happen? You start a small business, maybe it doesn't do well at the very beginning, but then you keep growing it, you keep at it. And then, then you'll see some growth in it. And, honestly, it's just fun because, anything crafty, anything creativity, like it's just fun. So whether you make some money off of it or you don't, like, you're going to have fun in the end of it.
Yes. Yeah. That's like the thing. Some people will be like, how do you do it? How do you manage your business and doing this, that, and the other thing? And I'm like, honestly, like crafting is my sanity, and it might, it might be, you know, something else for, you know, everyone has their hobbies, you know, whatever that may be. But like, if you're passionate about something, if you just have fun doing it, if you love doing it, then it's not really work, right? Like you're having fun doing it. So I enjoy crafting. And the best part for me is seeing that little creation or whatever I made, like just looking at it, like, whoa, I made that. That's cool, you know? And it's like, you just got to do it. And you moms, especially, like you need to have your you time, whatever that may be. For me, it's crafting. So make sure you're having your you time for your sanity, especially single parenting, you know, when our husbands are gone or whatever may be your case, but like you need to have your you time. It's so vital.
Yeah. Especially, you know, like you said, through this life, like you never know what's going to come. Murphy's Law is going to happen no matter how much you try to avoid it. And, you know, you have to kind of be prepared to wake up every day and roll with the punches. And that takes a lot of sanity, and that takes a lot out of you. And then you add kids to the mix, and it's just, you know, chaos. And so you have to find those things where it's like, okay, this is going to be my time. This is like, you know, zone everything else out, and everything else, you know, can pretty much wait.
Yes, exactly. I think it's funny because you're saying like your sanity. I don't know why, but this just randomly popped in my head. So there was this one time when my husband was gone, and this was in Virginia. So again, like I've been on the East Coast for the majority of my husband's career, and my family's on the West Coast. So this was another alone time where my husband was gone. I was alone with my kids, no support system, right? And the toilet just decided to run over with water, fill my whole bathroom as a pool.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I got the water to stop, and my kids were fussy. They were little. And I was like, okay, you know what? I just cleaned up as best I could. Then I was like, we're going to Starbucks. And so I loaded up all the kids. We went to Starbucks. I got a coffee, and that was my sanity moment where I was like, okay, I can freak out right now because my kids are fussy. Like this toilet just made a huge mess. My husband's gone. There's nobody here. And I was like, I'm getting Starbucks. And that was my sanity moment of like, okay, I will come back and deal with this when I get back. But right now I'm having coffee, and it's all good.
Yes. And I'm hearing too that the moral of the story is that's the reason why we need Starbucks and coffee shops open after 5 p.m.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yes, you never know what's going to happen and what time it's going to happen at. And sometimes you need that coffee, you need that break. Your kids need the break, and you need to remove yourself from the chaos sometimes. And that's harder or easier said than done. But you need to just, go get a Starbucks, go to get your kids a cake pop, get them a Frappuccino, whatever, and go.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. That's why I'm saying, like, those little things matter. Like, I know for some people, things not being open past 5 is not a big deal. But for me, I'm like, it's those little things that do matter for me. So,
Yes, absolutely. So the last thing I want to ask you is, what piece of advice would you give to another military spouse?
Reach out. Don't be scared to reach out. This is like me speaking to myself too, because after all these years, it is really difficult. I know for some people, maybe it's easier for others, but I know for me, it was really hard to ask for help or to get involved in a community of military spouses. And if I can go back in time, that's something I would do, is put myself out there more and reach out when I need help, because being this independent person that I am, it's like, no, I don't want to ask for help. No, I don't want to get involved. Like, I don't want to get mixed up with people that, may or may not be good in my circle. But just put yourself out there and reach out when you need the help, because we're all on the same journey with this aspect of the military spouse life. And everybody needs at some point or another that person or community to be there for them. So I would just say, reach out when you need it. Like, ask for help when you need it. Put yourself out there.
Yes, no, 100%. And then where can listeners connect with you and buy from your shop?
You can find me on social media at BudFanCo, and my website is www.budfanco.com. So everything's just BudFanCo.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amber, for being on the podcast and for sharing about your life as a military spouse.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Grace of a Military Child and Life podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, follow, and comment. Also, be sure to check out Instagram and Facebook at Grace of a Military Child and Life for more awesome content. For information on the podcast, Military Child Bigs and Littles, GoAMCL blog, or other resources, visit www.goamcl.org. You can also email me at Gracie, that's GRACIE, @GOAMCL.org with any questions or comments. To be a guest on the podcast, you can schedule it at www.goamcl.org/schedule a podcast, all one word, or contact me via social media or email. Stay tuned for the next episode where another incredible story is shared.